Hello everyone and welcome to this new video for my channel, The Mental Traveler. I'm Carolera and today I'm going to be talking about The House of the Spirits. I shall be reviewing both the novel and its movie adaptation. The book was written by Isabel Allende and it was published back in 1982, and this was actually her first novel ever, and it was an instant bestseller, which led to Hollywood turning it into a film in 1993, which stars Meryl Streep, Jeremy Irons, Winona Ryder, Vanessa Redgrave, Glenn Close, Antonio Banderas, among others. And before I begin, let me just say that this will be a spoiler-free review, so sit back and enjoy. I was introduced to the story of the House of the Spirits through the movie. I can't remember how old I was, but I must have been pretty young, and I liked it from the start, but as I grew older and I understood a bit better what was going on, I fell for it. Because my favorite stories are sweeping family dramas that span decades and are filled with love, betrayal, family feuds set during historical events. And well, one day when I was in my late teens, I think, I decided to read the book and I loved it even more than I did the movie. And since it's quite easy to read, there was a time when I read it every year. And I remember that once I was sick, and since it's not even 500 pages long, I read it in a day. Anyways, it had been a long time since I reread it, and because I wanted to make a video about it, I once again immersed myself into this Latin American magical realism world, and I was once again enchanted by it. And when I think of it, it's funny that along with Arránqueme la Vida by Ángeles Mastretta, in English I think it's called Tear My Heart Out, The House of the Spirits, it's one of the only books I've ever read by a Latin American author. And it's also funny that I always read it in English. Also, people sometimes compare it to Gabriel García Márquez's 100 Years of Solitude. I haven't read that book, but if you like it, then you might just enjoy The House of the Spirits. The House of the Spirits tells the story of the Trueba family in a span of about 90 years. It's set in Chile during the 20th century, and its protagonist is Esteban Trueba. This is a tale of from rags to riches, and we get to see how he overcame a dark childhood until he becomes this really powerful man who owns a sort of cattle station, and he even ends up becoming a senator to his country. But even though Esteban is this really strong, masculine character, the House of the Spirits is also filled with a lot of complex and interesting women. For example, there is Clara, Esteban's wife, Perula, Esteban's sister, Blanca, Esteban's daughter, and Alba, his grandchild. And we really get to learn the history of Chile during the 20th century with this book. We see how country life evolved from peasants to revolution to a bloody dictatorship. And in a way I find it really interesting because it has a lot of similarities to the history of Mexico. So that was something that also appealed to me because I'm Mexican and I've always lived in Mexico. The House of the Spirits also has some magical realism elements, which means that some characters can communicate with the dead, among other things. And while I personally do not believe in that, the way Isabel Allende portrays it, it just leaves me with a really nice appreciation for this aspect of Latin American culture / heritage. I give The House of the Spirits, both the movie and the film, a 5 out of 5 stars review and highly recommend them. The movie was criticized for having white actors playing Latin American people, but since I was introduced to the novel through the film, and every time I read it, in my mind I imagine those actors who happen to be really good performers, I really can't complain as much about this aspect in particular. And also the movie combines the characters of a mother and a daughter into one, but since they live in the movie the important events in, and they have beautiful costumes and landscapes, settings, music, and it's a really nice production, I don't really mind that either. But yeah, the novel is way better. It's richer, and even though it has dozens of characters, I don't mix them up because it's really easy to follow the plot, and they're all really believable and well constructed and interesting characters. And because through them we get to learn a lot about the history of Chile and to see why we should enjoy life. As a journalist, I can't help but feel intrigued by all the amount of research and detailed descriptions that the author did for this book, and it's all just presented in a very entertaining way. And also thinking about the author, I think she's a sort of feminist icon, and I like this because she really portrays strong women who had to endure segregation or discrimination for being women, and yet we see an evolution through each generation in this sort of progress of liberating women and giving them equal rights to men. Anyways, I believe that for the moment this is all I have to say about The House of the Spirits. I hope you enjoyed my review of it. Please let me know if you did or if you didn't, because I would love to discuss this story with you. In the description box below you can find a link to the Goodreads page for the book, as well as a link to the movie's IMDb page. I'm Carolera, the Mental Traveler. Thank you very much for watching this video. I wish you all a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Goodbye!